Yes.
Okay, that is the Holly Hill House. This young man started construction in 1888. And you know how women are very patient. So she waited, and he worked day and night by himself. You know, he's like strong. He had a horse that helped him with heavy lumber and material. It took him 2 years to finish that home. So you could imagine how excited he was. He went across the ocean to go look for his honey. Unfortunately, she couldn't wait. She ran away with another fella. He came back heartbroken, and he put signs all over the home, "No women allowed." Poor young man. He died with a broken heart. Now they say it's haunted. Once a year, they open it for the public to go check it out. It's been put on sale. It's been like the last time, I think it was $7 million. Wow. So yeah, his spirit is still there, roaming, crying from a broken heart. Okay, folks, going to 100 million years ago, like I mentioned, the island has never been connected with no other land. 100 million years ago, two plates collided together, and there you have it, Catalina. Now, everything that has came to the island has came across the ocean, either through a strong wind, through wave, or storm. Meaning, a strong wind carried some seeds, some small insects landed on the island and evolved with the island. Or let's say on a strong storm, and a log or debris landed on the island and evolved with the island. And then we have the natives that came from the other coastal areas in canoes, and I'm pretty sure that they brought, you know, their supplies. We believe that they brought the fox. The Catalina fox is as big as a house cat. It's between 4 to 5 pounds. They don't eat meat. They're very cute. We ran into one earlier. They're very photogenic. So everything that came here has came through the ocean. Now we're going to go into the interior. That's 88%. In 1975, the Wrigleys donated 88% to the conservancy. And that's where we're going to go in. No one could go in there. No golf carts are permitted. Only tour guides or locals that have a full-size vehicle. I know that I said that you could only have a golf cart. Well, if you want a full-size vehicle, folks, you would have to wait at least 25 years. I'm very fortunate that I have a full-size truck and 2 golf carts. I probably know someone in City Hall. I've been here a while, folks. Okay, so here we go. Keep your eyes open. And also from this point on, folks, I'm no longer responsible for you, okay? Okay, so going to 100 million years ago, like I mentioned, everything that came has came across the ocean. These trees on the side of the road, these are eucalyptus trees. They're not native here. They brought them for a purpose. But before I tell you the purpose, if you look at some trees that have little tiny holes, those are not man-made little holes. They are from the woodpeckers. The woodpeckers, you know, they make a lot of noise in the morning, pecking away. So if you have a tree in front of your home, you don't get awoken from sirens or helicopters or traffic. You get awoken by the woodpeckers. Also, you see some eucalyptus trees that are burnt. We've had 2 fires here in Catalina, one in 1915 and one in 2007. I'll tell you more about that after I tell you why the eucalyptus trees were placed on the side of the road. So back in the mid-1800s, folks, the only way that you could get into the interior was through stagecoaches. So story has it, you see this tree right here with the little holes? That's a woodpecker. And back, we'll show you another one. So the story has it that the stagecoaches would take about 2 to 3 hours to go into the interior and about 17 minutes coming down. So it was very scary. So they placed the eucalyptus trees on the side of the road to help the horses not to get scared. Another story has it that Mr. Wrigley used to go into the interior to the ranch that he had up here, and he used to like to drink a couple of drinks. Sometimes he would have one too many, so the trees would help him to get back home. Both stories make sense, but I think the first one is the one that is more precise. Okay, folks, so going to 8,000 years ago. 8,000 years ago, we had approximately 2,000 to 3,000 natives that came across the ocean from the native areas, and they landed here. They would live off the land. They would live off fish, whatever they would find, and I'm pretty sure they brought certain things to plant. And they would make soapstone, pottery out of soapstone. They would make pottery and go across the ocean and trade to the natives across the ocean. Another special thing that the island has, that back in that native times, all the chiefs from around the area, they used to come here to Catalina and have their spiritual religious meetings. They believe that the island has a lot of positive energy. I believe that as well, and I believe that that's why we don't have no crime here in Avalon. Story has it that if you decide to move to the island, retire here, or start your business, the island has to accept you. And we're not talking about the community, because we're very friendly people. We're talking about the energy of the island. If for whatever reason the island does not connect with your energy, there is nothing you could do to stay here on the island, no matter how much money you have. So I'm going to stop here for you to see this beautiful view. That's it. Little town, Avalon, California. Everything else is not for sale. When the cruise ships stop by, that's where they're at, where the boat is at ferry. We usually get about 5 cruise ships in the summer a week, and about 1 or 2 in the winter. Those homes right there, that is Hamilton Cove. Those are condominiums. They built them about 10, 12 years ago. If you find 1 or 2 for sale, a couple $1,000,000. If you want to stay there for the weekend, about $1,700, $1,800. That's where all famous and people that can afford that luxury, that's where they stay in the summer. Kobe used to there all the time. So we see a lot of famous people that are walking the strip. They try to wear glasses and hats, but I always spot them. At least the ones I like. Okay, folks, so here we go. My mother has a cleaning service there. Oh boy, the stuff they leave behind. Okay, so here's another tree with little holes, as you can see. And little woodpeckers pecking away. Right here. There's more trees. If you pay attention more into the interior, you'll see them. Okay, let's wait for this guy. So going back to 8,000 years ago, like I mentioned, we had like 2,000 to 3,000 natives. So as history tells us, in the mid-1500s, there were a lot of Spanish explorers roaming the waters and looking for new worlds and landing and claiming the land. So in 1542, there was a Spanish explorer named Cabrillo, landed on the island, and he named the island San Salvador after his ship. 60 years later, another explorer landed on the island, and he named the island Santa Catalina after St. Catherine's birthday. And as history also tells us that in the early 1600s, there was a lot of Spanish explorers that were building a lot of missions around California, like in San Diego, Santa Barbara, San Gabriel. So they built missions, and they gathered all the natives of Catalina. They took them to these missions. They baptized them, converted them to their religion, and took ownership of the land. So as history tells us that in the mid-1800s, a big part of the United States, including California, was Mexico. So this was Mexico back in the mid-1800s. After Mexico got liberated from the Crown of Spain, the last governor of Mexico decided to go down south on his horse. Unfortunately, his horse was tired and old. He didn't make it quite to Mexico. The horse died in Santa Barbara. So the governor walked for a couple miles, and he came across a ranch of the rancher of Mr. Thomas Robinson. He knocked on the door and he said, "Señor, do you happen to have a horse in the saddle, Mr. Robinson?" "Certainly." He took him to the back to the stables. He gave him a fresh horse and a saddle. So you could imagine that the governor, Pio Pico, was so appreciative. He reached in his pockets, and the only thing he found of value was the deed of Santa Catalina. So he traded the island for a horse and a saddle. And that was the beginning of the island being privately owned. Of course, there has been other men in history that have purchased the island, and I'll tell you who they have been. But first, let me tell you about the special turn that is coming up. This is a very magical turn. This is called the wishbone turn. Story has it that if you make a wish while you're turning, your wish will come true. Okay. Here we go, folks. I'll tell you when to make the wish. Okay. No husbands. Don't ask for husbands. Here we go, folks.
No, my husband.
Make a wish. Okay. I wish that I get you back safely.
Yeah.
Wishes come true.
Yes,
No, back in the 1800s, in the early 1900s, folks, that's where the stagecoaches would take a rest, make sure that the horses were watered and rested, because they had a long journey to continue into the interior. I know that you're wondering, well, what business did anyone have to come into the interior back in the mid-1900s? Well, back in the mid-1900s, folks, this was a hunting paradise for those that like that sport. They brought wild boar, goat, deer. Those like Charlie Chaplin, Laurel and Hardy, John Wayne, and all those famous actors back in that time, they used to come here and hunt their little heart out and go back to Avalon and have a ball, literally, at the casino. I will tell you more about the history, but like I mentioned, I'm just getting my license, so my boss says, Sal, you have to focus. So the reason I need to focus is because I'm taking you right on the side of the cliff in 1,500 feet. If we make it, we could see all the way across the ocean to Palos Verdes. If we don't make it, you'll get refunded, okay? Here we go. Hold on. So we'll be here for about 10 minutes where you could enjoy the view. If it's a clear day, you can see Palos Verdes Peninsula, San Pedro, Long Beach, Dana Point, Mount Baldy, San Bernardino Mountains. If it's a clear day, earlier there was a little cloud that was covering all that. So we have many hiking trails and cycling trails. This young man on the left, he's 70 years old. The average age here is between 95 to 103 years.
What?
There's no stress and a lot of lobsters. Who likes lobsters?
Oh, me.
Oh, we have lobsters breakfast, lunch, and dinner here.
Wow.
Well, let's see. Here we go. Hold on.
Oh my god. Oh my god. It's very
We made it. Yay.
Oh my god.
Okay, folks, wait till I open the door.
Uh-huh.
We'll be here for about 10 minutes.
All right.
We're at 1,500 feet above sea level. So that is Palos Verdes Peninsula. To the right is San Pedro, Long Beach. Okay, that's all we could see right now. But there's a plate right there that tells you every place we could see in a clear day. And that table up there on the left, that flat part, that is the highest. That is 2,100 feet. So from the gate this way, in 1975, the Wrigleys donated all this to the Conservancy. So no one could buy this land. The Conservancy balanced the ecosystem and the wildlife. I know that you're wondering, well, how did the buffalo get here? Well, 8,000 years ago, folks, buffaloes had wings. So they flew here. And just, oh, you were paying? Okay. 1924, they brought 14 bison to the island to film a movie calling Vanishing of America. They set up for the movie and they ran up to the hills. They never shot them in the movie. They said, let's just leave them here. Well, 500 bison later, it was a problem. So after that, every 3 years or so, they gather them like cattle. They count them. They tag them, make sure they're healthy, and anything over 150, they ship them to South Dakota to the natives in South Dakota. They believe that the bison are religious. They're religious animals for them. So the best time to see bison is mating season. That would be June to September. So we have approximately from about 150 of them. The bulls are 2,000 pounds. The females are about 1,000 pounds. The bull mates with all the cows, and the cow only with one bull. Right? So they stay impregnated for 9.5 months, and they have their litter, their young, April to July. So we did run into about 50 of them earlier. So we're hoping that there is no guarantee, because as you could see, they have all this part to roam. Of the island that you can still see the history of World War II. As a matter of fact, I'm going to slow down so we can talk about those buildings on the right. Back in World War II, those buildings right there, that is called Toyan Bay. That's where the CIA used to train back in World War II. Today, it's an educational camp for youth. They teach marine biology. Very safe place to drop off the kids for the weekend. The only way that you could get there is to boat. The waves are not that big. There's, like I mentioned, many areas that you could still see the history of World War II. As a matter of fact, when we go down to the town, we're going to pass by Machine Gun Park. There's a machine gun there that you could see. Of course, it's not live, but back in World War II it was. And the reason why I stopped here to tell you about this building on the left. So when we were coming up on the first road, there was a lot of eucalyptus trees burnt. There was a second fire in 207. There was a fire here. This was the radio station in 207. There was a young man welding on the antenna, and a spark hit the brush and caught on fire, and the fire went all the way down to Avalon. We thought we were going to lose the island, but they were able to contain the fire. Now it's a privately owned home. They don't like neighbors or telephones, but we live happily there. Okay, folks. So there was a series in the 70s that used to be called Fantasy Island. The plane. Have you ever heard about that? I played the character. No, I'm just kidding. This is Fantasy Island, folks. This is the original Fantasy Island with Ricardo Montalban. The last season, it was in Puerto Rico, but this is the original Fantasy Island with the little guy saying, "The plane." So yes, there's a lot of history here and a lot of stories. Like I said, we had wild boar and wild goat, but they got too wild. They became hungry, and they became down going to the town and demanding food. So they became dangerous. So they had to get rid of the wild boar and the wild goat. They say that one got away. They call it the ninja boar. He's like 2,000 pounds. He runs around the hills making weird noises. But like I said, I never seen nothing. I don't drink. Maybe someone that was drunk seen a bison and he thought it was a wild boar. They also have a story that it's a black panther running around the hills. I don't know. I don't think so.
That's fantastic.
Everything that is here is monitored. Like I said, it came through the ocean. But we don't have no coyotes. We don't have no mountain lions. We don't have, you know, the bison don't have no competition. And the bison aren't dangerous. They're very docile. They do get nervous in mating season. You see them running around trying to catch, you know, the cows, or the cows trying to catch. There's a, oh no, that's a raven. Catch the bull. So Maldives, like I mentioned, we have about 4 nesting areas, but in the 50s they really struggled. There was a chemical spill in the ocean of DDT. it contaminated the fish. So as you know, the eagles like to eat fish, so they were eating all the contaminated fish. And that affected female. They're about 1,000 pounds. The males are somewhere else. So they're hiding here in the brush. We've seen about 15. They were right here in the water earlier in the morning.